Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm Andy RC and today I'm checking out the Eachine Falcon 120 from Banggood.com. This is another micro brushless quadcopter where the frame is 120mm across, so it has some pretty impressive components, so let's check those out. The first one being the motors. So these are the Racer Star 1306 3500 kV motor, and these are known for being a pretty good motor, but a cheap motor, but still a good motor. And then we have got these 3-inch quad blades. Now you're seeing these more and more, except I would probably prefer a tri-blade, something like the HQ tri-blade 3-inch prop, because this is going to draw some amps, but we'll see how it flies with them. And just while we're on the motors there, the frame, it's quite thick, but it does have a little bit of bend in it. It's not too bad, and we have this stack here which has got everything else in it, and this is very sturdy, so I'm not really expecting any flexing or vibrations to come through to the camera on the top there. Now, I don't know if you can see here, but the entire underneath of this frame has been covered in a sticky back foam. They have cut the shape of the frame out and just stuck it on there, and I see this a lot with RTFs, and I'm not sure what its function is really. I mean, maybe they're thinking it will dampen vibrations from the motors, maybe, I don't know, but I see it a lot on these RTFs. And it means that if you want to remove a motor, you can't get to the screws. Now, there are some cutouts in it, so like here for example, we can access the standoff underneath there, but if you want to remove a motor, you're going to have to cut through the foam. Maybe they are trying to soft mount the entire frame. Controversial subject there. So we have got a all-in-one ESC board, and it says that it is BL Halley S. However, I did try and connect this up to BL Halley and it didn't recognize it, so maybe it's using a very early version of it. But it's a really nice build. As you can see, usually we would expect ESCs on the arms there, and we have some electrical tape just for the wires, which is quite nice. So above the 4-in-1 ESC board we have the SP Racing F3 flight controller. It's a very good flight controller, and you can see that we have various things connected into it. So here we have got the all-in-one ESC board, and that is piggybacking into the flight controller there, sending the PWM values and probably also the power as well by the looks of it. And then on this side we have got the VBAT connected, and that is because on the other side there is a buzzer. I will show you that in a bit. But then here we also have got pin 7 connected there, and that will be in the I01, and that is going to be for the LED strip on the back. So yeah, if I come back here, we have this LED strip here which fits flush against the frame, which is nice, and then we have the buzzer in the middle there for lost model alarm and also voltage telemetry. That's why the VBAT is connected in there. Now, the only issue that I found with this LED strip at the back is it is glued in here, but mine has come loose. Now, it's very difficult to glue anything to carbon fibre, but that has come loose, so I'm going to have to maybe tape it in was probably the best, because hot glue won't work, and that is moving about. Now, it is connected through this standoff here, so I don't think it's going to come loose, and we also have a screw under here as well, which can tighten that stand up a bit more tighter, but I don't think that's the problem. It just sits a bit loose there. You can see there that we have the wires coming from the LEDs there, and that is connected to the DIN. So moving further up the stack, we have a 200 milliwatt VTX, and then that comes out the top here using a 90-degree RPSMA connector, and it does seem to be attached quite nicely. We have got two nuts here, and they sit either side of the carbon, so I don't see this moving anywhere. And then we have got this RPSMA mushroom antenna there. So I'm not sure this is going to work too well. It seems a little bit too low profile for my liking, and ones I've seen in the past never perform really that good. I'd probably stick a taller one on there. I know that they've done it for the low profile, but I think a taller one will get you better reception. So I did struggle with the VTX because there's no instructions with this, so that's something to note there. But I couldn't figure out how to change the channels on the VTX. It's all packed in so tightly there, and there's actually a little tiny button on this side, and I have actually broke mine off because I was trying to attack it from this angle here and I couldn't quite figure out how it worked, and I managed to poke the top off on the little plastic button. But that's fine because now it's just a little button that presses down, so that's not too much of a problem there. So you hold it down for a couple of seconds. Then we've got some LEDs on the board which you can't quite see, so a set of LEDs there and a set of LEDs along the side, and so a long press cycles through the bands and then a short press cycles through the channels, and it's a 40 channel VTX there, so quite nice really. I guess they could have gone for a lighter setup using one of these all-in-ones. However, I think they didn't because they wanted a RPSMA connector on there so that in a crash this wasn't going to bend or break off. So one thing that is interesting though is that that is possible with the FPV camera because it's sticking up here. So this is a 700 TV line CMOS camera, so not CCD. And that just connects here on this mount there, and we have this little hex screw on the side there, and that makes the camera adjustable there, which is nice, so you can put any angle you want in there. But yeah, quite a big camera there. And you can change it between NTSC and PAL via this little switch here on the back if you need to. And then we have a fairly wide angle lens on here as well. I think it is about 115 degrees, something like that. So yeah, that's the camera. Now the receiver is the FlySky A8S, and it's a very tiny receiver, and they have just wrapped the antenna around here. Now I would have preferred them to stick a cable tie around this little slot here and then have it sticking up like that out of the way, maybe some heat shrink around it, but I guess they are building these to a budget. But I can see that if that is just sort of tucked around there, it could maybe get stuck in the props. Not only that, you're not taking advantage of the full range of this, but even with it just tucked around there, you should get some fairly decent range. And the receiver is just stuck on there with some double-sided tape. So the battery that you get given in the package is not this one. This is a 4-cell battery that I have connected to it. We have a battery strap under here, and a 4-cell battery just about fits, but you are given this guy. This is a Eachine branded battery. It's a 3-cell and it's 850 milliamps. So I don't think there is a C rating on there. Oh, there is. Is that 20C to 35C? I don't know. Anyways, we'll check that out in the flight and see how it performs. So weight-wise, with a 4-cell battery, let me just show you the 4-cell battery that I'm using. By the way, I sourced this locally, but it's actually a very good battery. So it is a OptiPower battery, so it's a 4-cell, and it's got a max burst of 100C. Actually very good battery, but quite a long connector there, but I managed to put that alongside the battery strap, and that was quite nice there. So with a 4-cell battery, this comes in at exactly 250 grams, and this one is 20 grams lighter, so you are talking, what, 230 grams with the stock setup. But I want to try it with the stock setup and also with a 4-cell battery, so this is 850 milliamp as well, and I think it will go like a rocket with a 4-cell. Probably goes like a rocket with a 3-cell, so I'll have to check that out. Now, you don't actually get a lot more in the package when it comes to spares and extras. We have a bind plug here, and then we have got a spare set of props, and these are red props, so I put the black ones on just because I think it looks cooler, but that's just my opinion. And we're given a B3 charger, so you can only charge a 2 or 3S battery with this, and it only charges at 0.8 of an amp, which is actually fine for this because this is 850 milliamp. But if you want to charge these batteries quicker, then you can use a hobby grade charger because it's an XT60 connector on the end there, which is quite nice. And of course, this is the RTF version, so you are given a transmitter. Now, this is called the Eachine i6, but it's just a rebrand of the FlySky i6. I selected this one in mode 1, so there is a selection on there for mode 1 and mode 2 if you want to check that out. So it takes 4 AA batteries in the back, so I've stuck rechargeables in here. And then if I turn it on, just need to put the switches in the up position. You can't change anything here at all, you see. And we also have the Eachine logo there as well, but let me show you a little trick here. I mean, you shouldn't really need to mess with any of the settings, but if you want to, if you turn it off and then put both of these two trims inwards and then turn it on, you can unlock the settings there, and you can probably change the switches, which I actually did. So out of the box, it is set up to arm on the rudder, and then on this switch, it's quite strange actually, we have acro on this switch here, and then angle there, and then here we have acro again, but with air mode, so no horizon there, so not seen that combination before. And then this switch here, that one is your lost model alarm. But I have changed this around on mine, so I went into the settings there and went into the aux channels, and I changed this switch D to switch A, I think. So then I have got channel 5 set up the same on this one, but then on this one here, I set this one up as an arming switch, and I'll show you the combination. Then you have to long press to change any of the settings, so that's the cancel button. I always found that a bit strange, but there you go, that saves the settings there. So the way I have got it set up is I have set it up to arm on a switch there, because I just like that, and I also turned off the motor stop, and I'll show you the settings in Betaflight in a bit what I changed. Then I had this one as angle, and then I had this one as acro and also air mode, and I'll talk about air mode a little bit later. And then I set this one up as a lost model alarm, so I've got all of them there, and I can arm on a switch as well. So I have tested the failsafe already with the props off, of course, and the failsafe works. So actually you could take this out of the box and fly it straight away without ever having to go into Betaflight. But I have changed a couple of things. Obviously I mentioned the modes there, so let's go and check that out before I take it for a fly. So here we are in the Betaflight configurator. You can get it from the Chrome App Store, and this quadcopter comes already flashed with Betaflight, and it's the latest version 3.01. Of course, check the date of this video because that may change, but it's nice to see that these manufacturers are updating the firmware with the latest, which is really good, which means I don't have to flash it. Now, I do have the quadcopter plugged into the USB port on the flight controller, going to the computer via a very tiny USB lead, and that is because in this board configuration the USB connector on the flight controller is facing the motors directly, so you need a really small USB connector, and that is what I have got. But it's something that they have had to do in order to get that stack in that diamond shape, otherwise the props would end up hitting the flight controller. So you can see there that it says COM3 at the top. I've also got the battery plugged into the quadcopter as well, so I've got the propellers off. That's very important to do that, and that is because the receiver doesn't power up unless the battery to the quadcopter is connected. So let's get and connect to it, and I'll show you some of the settings. So here you could calibrate the quadcopter's accelerometer. Now it's not on a level surface for me, so I'm not going to do that. I've already calibrated it on a level surface, but you just press that there. Then let's go into the ports, and you can see that the serial RX is selected on the UR3 for the receiver. So let's go into the configuration, and it's set up as a Quad X, which is standard, but you can see that the board and sensor alignment is set to -45 degrees, and that is to cater for that diamond shape of the flight controller. So if you do want to flash upgraded firmware in the future, you need to take note of that, and take note of all of these settings really. So the ESC motor protocol is set to 1shot125, and this is where I have started to change stuff. So the motor stop here is turned off, it's turned on out of the box, and when you turn motor stop off, that means when you arm the quadcopter, the propellers will start to spin round, and that's so that you can have control of the quadcopter at 0 throttle. That's something that I like to have. And of course now I have got my arming on a switch. I've also set disarm the motors regardless of the throttle value when using a auxiliary channel, so I've set that as well. However, I think that was switched on out of the box anyway. So we've got the motor idle throttle. I have kept that the same. Looks like they have got that right. And the maximum command at 2000 and the minimum command at 1000, which is correct. If I scroll down here, we have got the receiver settings. So it's set to serial based receiver. And then it's set to iBus here, which is good because that is the lowest latency that you can get with the FlySky system. Moving over to the VBAT, and that is enabled as well, and you can see at the top there that the VBAT is coming through. That is the voltage of the 4-cell battery that is connected, and I haven't messed with any of the warning cell amounts, and that is because I'm running a pretty big battery for this quadcopter. So in order to save my battery, I'm going to keep the warnings at the correct level. There's no voltage scale change there, and it looks correct to me. So moving down, everything else here is stock. What's interesting is they have enabled servo tilt. I'm not sure why, because that is if you have got a servo tilt for your camera, and this doesn't have a servo on it, so maybe that's a stock setting that they forgot to turn off. But we have the LED strip turned on for the LED strip at the back, which is correct, and black box as well. So let's go into failsafe. So yeah, I have got the expert mode on here, which opens up the failsafe options, and it is set to drop out of the box, which is correct, and I have checked that and it works fine without any modification. So onto the PID tuning, and this is something that I changed drastically. So out of the box it came with the stock Betaflight settings, and I did fly with it to check it, but it did oscillate and also give a couple of wobbles as well. So I have put a tune on this. I have set the P270 for the roll, pitch and yaw, and then the integral 45 for everything, and the derivative 40 for both of those as well, and I get a good tune out of that. Now, one thing that I have done, which is unusual, is I have changed the super rate to 0.75. I usually run at 0.8. However, this is such a small model and I found it a little bit twitchy at 0.8, so I've moved it down to 0.75. I'm not running any RC Expo there, and everything else here is stock. So let's go onto the receiver tab, and you can see there that I have my controls. The channel map is AETR, which is correct for FlySky, and I have got my mode switch set up there, as well as the arming switch as well. So talking of modes, let's go into the mode tab, and this is where I have changed pretty much everything. So I have set my arming up on a switch there, so you can see that going there, and I have also got angle mode down here, and then in the middle is acro, and you can see when it goes into acro, air mode turns on. And the reason why I've got air mode turned on, again, it's not something I usually do, but when I am flying with these brushless micro quadcopters, I find that they can be a little bit unstable on the descent, and you get prop wash, etc. So I have turned air mode on and I get a much better result doing that. So in my last position I have got it set to a beeper, and you can see there that I have my lost model alarm, and that means I get all the features that I want. So that is pretty much everything. I haven't calibrated the ESCs, they were calibrated out of the box, and you can see the LED settings here as well, but I'm not going to change any of that. And then if we go into the CLI, I will just show you the version number here. So we have Beta Flight for the SP Racing F3, and it's version 3.01. So I've taken the props off here, and this is so that I can show you the LED sequence, because it does change when the motor's on. So I'll just plug the battery in here. I've already got the transmitter turned on. So there you go, they flash up green when disarmed, and then when you arm it, they go blue. You see the motors are spinning there. And then if you move the aileron to the right, then the right LED flashes, and then to the left also flashes, so that's flashing yellow, but you probably can't see that. And then back, they flash like that. Forward pitch does nothing, and also the rudder does nothing as well. Okay, so let's first of all go for a line of sight flight with a 3-cell battery. So I'm going to arm it and go for a quick takeoff. This thing is zippy. Okay, let's go for a punch out. See those LEDs going there. Wow, so on the 3-cell battery it's gonna be plenty, and with a 4-cell it's gonna be nuts. Look at that. Okay, let's go into acro and see if I have any tuning issues. Seems okay. This thing is very small though, if you're looking at doing some line of sight acro. I imagine even more difficult on a 4S. Do a nice slow roll there, and a quick one. So let's see if I can get this thing close to the camera, but it's so tiny. Yep, I think the 3S would do you know. If you're sort of an intermediate. I really like this, you know. Shall I be brave and stick a 4S on and try some line of sight with 4S? Why not? You only live once. So a 4S battery on this thing, probably going to be testing my skills. Let's try it. Okay, not too bad so far. Punch! Oh my goodness. Yep. That's nuts. Just as I thought. It'll get away from you very quickly with this battery. Try again. Oh wow, and it just disappears. Which isn't that great for a quadcopter that's so tiny. But the amount of power, that is great. Do I dare even do some acro on the 4S? Nice slow backflip there. Nice slow maneuvers for me when I fly line of sight acro. Nice slow barrel roll, you would call that. I'd call that anyway. Anyway, I can't see anything straight away that could possibly cause a problem in the air when it comes to tuning wise. So the next thing is to be brave and go and fly some FPV with it. So here is some DVR footage taken from my Fat Shark Dominator HD3s. I'm also using the Fat Shark Diversity receiver along with a Onway cloverleaf antenna and a Menace RC patch antenna. And I'm also using the 4-cell battery that I showed earlier along with the Betaflight tune that I improved upon myself, and I have to say this thing is absolutely bonkers. The amount of power that is there is just crazy, definitely on par with a 4-cell 5-inch setup. And one thing that I wasn't happy about, and I touched on it early in the video, is the reception that mushroom antenna is giving. It's just not very good. It's breaking up and I'm finding it quite annoying to fly with. Now it's flying very nice as I do my 4-point roll there, but yeah, the amount of breakup was a little bit too much for me. Now you might be able to hear the motors going, and that is because there is a built-in microphone in this system. However, I'm not really much of a fan of built-in microphones because I don't hook up any audio to my goggles, and I find the amount of interference that you get through the audio distracting. But I thought I'd put it on there anyway so that you could listen to it. But just look at all that breakup there. Definitely needs another antenna, but that's a quick fix. So just trying to thread the needle through the trees here, and I was able to do it no problem. I have got the camera angle fairly flat for this flight, and again just doing a backflip, able to do all the maneuvers that I can do with my 5-inch setup, which is nice. And actually the camera wasn't so bad when it comes to the dynamic range. I think when I was pointed into the sun, everywhere went a little bit dark, but I would expect that from a CCD camera as well because it is winter. But I was getting some nice smooth maneuvers here, and this is why I like to use the air mode, because you just get too many oscillations and wobbles on the descent if you don't use it. I'm still getting a couple, but not too bad. And I have spotted a crow here, so let's see if I can go after it. Now they usually fly straight to the trees, but this guy is taking a little bit of a turn. Oh, I'm managing to keep up no problem. Oops, I actually overtook him there, but yeah, they always fly into the trees. That's the safest place for them. I would never harm any animal on this channel, but I do like to chase them because they like to chase me. I've been chased a couple of times. I was actually flying the Phantom Pro a couple of days ago, and I was getting the object avoidance system going off, and I looked up and there was a bird up there. But anyway, I'm just shaking the roll axis a little bit there, just checking out whether I'm getting any wobbles, and I'm not. So I'm pretty happy with this tune. It's very difficult to tune quadcopters at this size, though, I have realized. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. It was flying very similar to my 5-inch. Now, I think a lot of people are going to be wondering, can you stick a Mobius Mini on this? And there's no doubt at all that it will carry it, but there's nowhere really to mount it. So I suppose you could mount it underneath the battery, but then it would need to be set off at an angle as well. You may get the arms in shot. So really, this one is just meant for flying for yourself, and that is through your goggles, and then you can record the DVR footage to watch it back. And you also have the audio on there as well. It's not going to be as good as the audio on a Mobius Mini, but there you go. And one thing that was impressive with this, as I do a massive dive, is the flight time. You see, the battery is absolutely huge for this size quadcopter, and I was getting a 6-minute flight time with this battery easy. In fact, I ended up most of the time landing before any buzzer went off as I'm trying to do a dive there upside down. It handled that no problem, which is pretty impressive if you think about it, because not so long ago the 120 size quadcopter was limited to just being a brushed model, and now we have this crazy powered 120 model with powerful motors, and it's able to have a serious amount of punch as well as being able to do crazy dives. So I think that is pretty impressive. Like I say, the only thing I'm a little bit disappointed in with this one is the reception, which can be corrected just with an antenna. That's all it is. Just the antenna that you get in this package isn't that great, I'm afraid. So I'm going to do a massive punch out here, and we don't have any vibrations or anything like that, so that was something I was concerned about. And a backflip, and then a dive. Yeah, I was concerned about that FPV camera vibrating because it seemed a little bit weak, the plastic, but that's not the case at all. I think that the camera is really clear, and I was impressed with the camera, just not the antenna. So I'm just flying around here because I'm like, okay, where's the alarm buzzer? And it just wasn't going off at all, and that was with the voltage warning set pretty high, really. I usually set them lower, but anyways, I'm gonna give up, I think, and see if I can go in for a landing. Now that is a problem with this model, is the takeoff and landing, because we have the battery underneath, so it sort of does have to balance on its battery as it takes off, so I find that a bit of a challenge. And you can see here I'm looking for a landing spot, but because the sun is in the horizon, I'm having to turn around and find a landing spot, and I'm going to do a great landing. So there you go, that is my review of the Eachine Falcon 120. I'll put a link in the description if you wish to get one. As always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.